All right, we are back in our regular slot on Fridays with Chase Sr. Super fired up to have the czar of chat sports, Niners and Eagles coverage with us. We got a lot to hit. Let's hit it. Running on a Friday on the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week, soon to open in Petaluma. I've been saying that most of the year, but they are. They're just working on some details on where exactly to put the smoker in the barbecue restaurant, which is kind of a key element. So they've been a little delayed, but they are still coming. If you're in downtown Petaluma, a lot of people up there have been saying, hey, Krug, you've been talking about Pig and a Pickle. When is it coming? They've been paying rent up there for over 4 months, so they're a little bit behind, and they want to get it open soon. And I was just there the other day. I was told that it is coming. It is forthcoming. So you will see Pig and a Pickle in Petaluma, in addition to Corte Madera, in addition to Emeryville, where they're at right now. Thank you to them. Also, thank you to PrizePicks for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. PrizePicks is awesome. We love PrizePicks. The show's presented by PrizePicks, America's #1 sports picks app. They're super simple. You just pick more or less on PrizePicks on player stats or game outcomes. You build a lineup. It's available in most states, including California. If you haven't checked it out yet, use code HMA. When you play $5, you get $50 in lineups instantly. Chase, well, good to see you, man. It's been a few weeks. Great to see you. And, I titled the stream, Are the Niners Good Enough in the Trenches to win the Super Bowl? I saw a ranking where 49ers roster was, ranked, I think, 11th or something like that. I saw Warren Sharp's thing the other day. I couldn't believe he had the Niners offensive line as the 7th best offensive line in the entire sport. At least that's what he's projecting going into this year, which would be great news if you're a 49er fan. But I'll just throw that question to you just out of the chute. Are the 49ers good enough on the line, on the O-line, on the D-line? Or is there still work to be done there for them to be good enough on the line of scrimmage to win a Super Bowl this year in LA?
Yeah, first off, Larry, good to see you. I know you've been enjoying your summer. I have as well. And I feel like outside of the Brandon Aiyuk storyline, this has been a pretty slow offseason for San Francisco, but can't wait for it to heat up here in a couple of weeks with the start of training camp. And I know that you and I oftentimes talk about the trenches, right? Especially the Niners offensive line. And I think for San Francisco, it's never an area on the offensive side of the ball that they emphasize enough. And I know that they paid Trent Williams multiple times, and they drafted Aaron Banks in the 2nd round, and they drafted Dominic Pooney in the 3rd round. How about the blue chippers, though, in the 1st round? They've never been able to land them. And the one time that they drafted an offensive lineman in the 1st round during this regime, it was Mike McGlinchey. So that kind of tells me that the Niners are a little bit hesitant in their evaluation process and looking at that position group. It's funny because on the defensive line, it's the complete opposite. They've invested a lot there, whether it be trades, whether it be free agency acquisitions, or signing players in free agency to big deals, or drafting players early in the NFL draft. I think the jury is certainly out for the Niners defensive line. I think the talent is there for them to compete at a Super Bowl level, but you think about what that hinges on, right? Nick Bosa coming off a torn ACL, Mykel Williams coming off a torn ACL. You're going to need some contributions from a 3rd-round rookie in Romello Height, who's a little bit undersized, but is very twitchy coming off the line of scrimmage. He's a 25-year-old rookie, so you're hoping that he's going to be able to contribute right away. Otherwise, you're already losing some time right from the jump because of his age. Sam Okuwanu is a good rotational player at edge. Cam Sample, Keon White, solid rotational players who can also slide to the interior. I do really like how the Niners and Chris Kosarek like to use players at defensive end and at defensive tackle. Mykel Williams is obviously going to be in that role, and last year he proved to be a really solid player when he was doing that. And then at that edge spot, he was really good against the run. But again, we're not sure for him when he's going to come back. You're going to need leaps from second-year players in Alfred Collins and CJ West. I did think that they got better as the season progressed. The trade for Osa Digizua, value-wise and player-wise, I think was one of the best moves that any team in the NFL made this offseason. He is a twitched-up, very good athlete who can rush the passer and has been very productive in doing so from defensive tackle. You're pairing him with run stuffing defensive tackles and Alfred Collins and CJ West. So you needed that type of player. He's also solid against the run. He's missed one game over the last 5 years, and him alongside Nick Bosa, I think, can really cause a lot of havoc, especially when those guys are going to get some one-on-one opportunities. So I like the makeup of this Niners defensive line and pass rush, but keep in mind, there are a lot of question marks. As I mentioned, they only had 20 sacks last year as a team, 4 from that defensive tackle group. So a lot hinges on those players being healthy, and then the new acquisition in Osa Odighizuwa, and then some of the rookies and younger players. And then along the offensive line, I think it is what it is. Trent Williams, we're not sure who's going to be at left guard beside him. Jake Brendel at center is kind of an average player. Dominic Pooney wasn't great last year. To start, was better as the season went on, but I think that was due to the knee injury. Colton McKivitz is an average to good right tackle. I do think the Niners' depth along the offensive line is better now than it was last year, but if they have to go up against a rugged defensive line like Seattle or the Rams, especially after the acquisition of Myles Garrett, Philadelphia, one of the other top teams in the NFC, I think that the Niners offensive line can really struggle despite them having a great play caller and a great scheme.
I don't know if you saw this, but Andrew Whitworth had a pretty interesting quote. Coach Yak had this. He said the last time the 49ers used a first or second round pick on an offensive lineman was in 2021 when they drafted Aaron Banks. And then Andrew Whitworth went on NBC Sports Bay Area or NBC Sports and basically said that he doesn't believe that's by accident. He says, to me, it does scream that maybe they just don't have a lot of confidence in their ability to select the right one, meaning offensive lineman, because this is the problem with the offensive lineman. When you're going to allocate a first-round pick or a second-round pick to an O-lineman, a lot of people love that theory, but you better be damn good at picking it, because if you hit on an offensive lineman, it can be unbelievable for your franchise early in the draft, because a great offensive lineman, a great D-line is the story to successful football teams. But when you miss on a high pick like that and you don't draft you draft an unproductive offensive lineman, you're cooked, because now you're getting a second, third, fourth tier lineman who's going to have to play. I think there's a lot of coaches, a lot of GMs and scouts and everything else out there that I don't know if they understand the position as well as maybe they think they do. What do you think? I mean, I'm sure the Niners would, if you threw this quote in their lap, they would say, oh, no, that's not us. Chris Foerster is he's a outstanding offensive line coach, and we're just of like mind. We believe that difference makers come, we should use those picks on guys who touch the ball on offense or defensive players. And we don't, we think we can get linemen that fit our scheme and we can find them later on. I mean, this has kind of been an organizational philosophy going back to the Bill Walsh and Bob McKittrick and the Niners in the 80s. They've all those years of winning the Super Bowl, they had Harris Barton was a first-round pick. They had Bubba Paris. I believe he was a first-round pick. Other than that, they were always late-round picks or undrafted guys, or heck, Jesse Sapolo was a 12th-round guy. What do you think of what Whitworth is saying here?
Yeah, I referenced that a little bit earlier, and I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And I know that Chris Foerster is recognized by the Niners as a terrific offensive line coach. I think he's a fun interview. He's been in the league for a long time. He's always at these coaching clinics and coaching summits, and he knows this Kyle Shanahan system really well. And obviously the fingerprints of that system are all around the NFL right now. It wouldn't surprise me if in a few years, almost the entire league is running some semblance of this offensive scheme. But when you were reading that off, and I'm thinking about it, especially since starting covering the Niners, beginning with the 2021 NFL draft, who has Chris Foerster and the Niners really developed into a terrific offensive lineman? I mean, Colt McKivitz was a late round pick and he got a contract and he's been a solid player. When he has to go up against elite players last year, like Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, or in 2023, TJ Watt, or elite edge rushers just in general, I think Colt McKivitz gets really exposed, right? Aaron Banks was a second-round pick who flatlined, and a year after the Green Bay Packers signed him in 2025 free agency, they regretted it a year later, and they redid his contract. Trent Williams was a proven product. Dominic Pooney had a step back in year 2. We'll see what he does in year 3. They have taken a journeyman in Jake Brendel, and they've turned him into a starting caliber center, which I guess is a solid developmental story. And I know that they love the cerebral nature of Jake Brendel. And anytime you talk negative about him, you'll have some beat writers say, well, you don't know what Jake Brendel does for this team and the amount of respect that he garners from players on both sides of the ball. But he's a completely average player. So I think Andrew Whitworth has a point, which is what I agreed with earlier to kind of start off the show. I don't know if the Niners have a great talent eye or ability to develop offensive linemen, because what are the developmental stories that we've seen? You know, Mike McGlinchey was a first-round pick out of Notre Dame, ended up being a solid player. He only got paid by the Denver Broncos because they were desperate for an offensive tackle. Like, he didn't really turn into a really good player. So I do think this has been a lingering, ongoing issue for this Niners team under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know who's going to start at left guard. I mean, McKivitz made it sound like Connor Colby's play speed is quite a bit faster, and maybe he's got the inside edge. And then Firster made it sound like Robert Jones is their best run blocker, and God knows they couldn't run against Seattle in their their 6-man boxes, and they're basically playing a nickel defense and just begging you to run it, and the Niners couldn't run it. So anybody who can unleash the run game between the tackles and even in the A gaps, I think is probably the guy who they go with at left guard. Do you think it will be Colby, who had 50 starts at Iowa, or do you think it'll be the veteran Jones coming off of a serious neck injury? Could it be Brett Toth? Could it be Carver Willis? Nick Sakel, Drake Nugent. I mean, there's got a Verdarian Lowe. I mean, they have bodies here. Who do you think ultimately gets that left guard job?
Yeah, I saw a comment or two saying the former first-round pick from the Lions is a good player who the Niners developed, Laken Tomlinson. You know, he was a first-round pick out of Duke by Detroit. He didn't work out there. He came to the Niners, and to the Niners' credit, yes, that is a player who they got back on track, who had first-round pedigree, who ended up playing well and then earned a huge contract with the New York Jets, went there and didn't play well and has been hopping around from team to team since. As far as that left guard spot, I think right now the lean would be Robert Jones. And yes, you mentioned that he's coming off that serious neck injury. He is, but this is a player who has started 30 games in the NFL, 49 games played, and did start a lot of games under Mike McDaniel in this offense with the Miami Dolphins. And so he started 17 games in 2024, knows this scheme somewhat well, is a solid run blocker. That is a player who I think has the experience, the scheme familiarity, who I think can take this job. I think the best case scenario, Larry, is Carver Willis winning the job as a rookie, a converted tackle from college where he played at Kansas State and then at Washington. If he ends up winning the job, that's a good sign, because that means that he plays well and played well enough in camp and in the preseason in order to claim that job. But realistically, I think it's going to be Robert Jones. And knowing Kyle Shanahan too, I think he wants a veteran player who we can kind of trust with a Super Bowl ready, win now type of team.
To the Niner D-line, the D-line, to me, I think the second best edge rusher that the 49ers have, I hate to say this, I think it's Mikhail Kamara, because Romello Height is a specialist. I think he's a third down, he's 238 pounds.
Yeah, speedster off the edge.
He's a speedster. He's not a first and second down guy. And I'm looking at the other guys and I'm like, I don't know, kind of a big bodied guy. Keon White, is he a tackle? Is he an end? I think Mikhail Kamara, based on what I saw in Indiana, is the second best edge rusher to Nick Bosa. I mean, you cover the Eagles. The Eagles have like 9 guys. I mean, they've got guys they've picked up this year. Espinosa, they picked up Greenard. They still have Nolan Smith. They've got guys. They've got a number of guys. I mean, beyond that, and yet the 49ers have Nick Bosa coming off a torn ACL. And then I don't know. It's very, very thin. Um, is it good enough, or should they be aggressively going after a Jadeveon Clowney, a Von Miller, just anybody more proven off the edge? What do you think?
I think they're a body short, and I think they need to go out and either make a trade for a defensive end, but more likely, I think it's an affordable veteran signing. And I know that you and I have hit on this on our own separate channels. But yes, the Niners do have more than $70 million in cap space, and that's great. By far, number one in the NFL. But they are more than $30 million over the cap next year. So I think the strategy right now for San Francisco from a cap allocation standpoint and just planning ahead for the future is to roll a lot of that cap space over so that they can have some cap space next year and kind of absorb that dead cap number and then being in the red and over the cap next year. So I know that right now everybody's like, Chase, they have the most cap space in the NFL. Why can't they make a move? I think that's why. Now, I would make a call to the Las Vegas Raiders to see what Max Crosby would cost, because I think that's a player who immediately makes your defense better. Him and Nick Bosa along the same defensive line would be fantastic. The Niners have made all win now moves this offseason, and that fits going all in on this year. Capitalize on Christian McCaffrey being 30 years old, George Kittle being 32, 33, Fred Warner being longer in the tooth, signing Dre Greenlaw, signing Mike Evans, signing Christian Kirk, trading for Osa Odighizuwa, Nick Bosa getting older, coming off a torn ACL. You sign Brock Purdy to that massive contract extension. Your team is getting older as far as the marquee star player. So why not try to acquire a star player? I would at least make a call to see what he costs. The Rams got better in trading for Myles Garrett. The Eagles got better making that trade for Jonathan Grenard. You're trying to catch up to what your NFC counterparts are doing. Prior to last year, Green Bay Packers traded for Micah Parsons. And so I would try to make a call like that to just see what it would cost. But the more realistic avenue is, signing a player like Jadeveon Clowney, who had 8+ sacks last year. I think 4 came in that final game, but he was actually a pretty damn good player. What is Joey Bosa's number as far as the salary that he demands, where you can convince him not to retire? Because I think that he would be a good player for this team. Von Miller as a speed rusher off the edge. He's a future Hall of Famer. Is he the guy who he once was? Of course not. But was he productive last year? Can he get after the quarterback? You know that he can. And that type of Hall of Fame pedigree along a defensive line that has some young players, I think that can really benefit you. Raheem Morris has a lot of experience working with smaller, twitchier speed rushers at edge. That's what Von Miller has been throughout his entire career. And so I do think there's a move that the Niners can make. I think they need to make a move at defensive end, because it's not unfair to the second and third levels of your defense by not addressing a pass rush that last year was dead last in the NFL. But there's still some time to do that. And some people might be wondering, like, why not sign Jadeveon Clowney now? A player like that doesn't want to go through training camp. He just doesn't want to put his body through the rigors of training camp. He's going to sign later in the process. So maybe at that time, that's when the Niners kind of jump to make a move.
We don't know how Raheem Morris feels about the Niners' young defensive players. He didn't tell us. If we asked him, he wouldn't tell us. But, I think it's naive to think that he just loves everybody and is going to, he probably has guys that he thinks are really good, but he may have guys that he saw at OTAs. He's like, dude, we need to trade a couple of these guys for, somebody better. That being said, last time we talked, I asked you about Jaylen Carter. There was Jaylen Carter rumors out of Philadelphia. If you had to wager every penny that you have to your name, and you got that chat sports money, so we know you're rolling. If you had to bet every penny you have that Jaylen Carter starts the year and finishes the year in Philly as opposed to somewhere else, where are you putting your money?
I'm putting it on him starting and ending the season with the Eagles. I think that the vibes are good for the Eagles after a very frustrating year last year. They're kind of like the Niners, where they're in this win now mode with a very expensive team. They're trying to capitalize on being in a win now mode. This is also important to note for the Eagles too. Their offense, even without A.J. Brown, pretty expensive. Their defense is actually one of the youngest, most affordable units in the NFL. That's going to change soon. They just this offseason paid Jordan Davis. They're going to have to pay Jaylen Carter. They want to pay Jalix Hunt. They're going to have to pay Quinyon Mitchell. They're going to have to pay Cooper DeJean. So they want to capitalize on this defensive nucleus and core under Vic Fangio being affordable right now. Why would you get rid of a player who, at his best, is the top 5 most disruptive player in the NFL, unless you can get some crazy haul back that includes like 2 first-round picks? But I think Jaylen Carter is with the Eagles this year.
Okay. I'm going to share the screen. This is interesting. Coach Yak had this graphic out. He said, rank these 4 quarterbacks. How do you rank? For those who maybe can identify, we got Brock Purdy, top right corner. You got Jalen Hurts, top left corner. You got Jaden Daniels, bottom left corner. You have Justin Herbert, bottom right corner. The only guy that's got a ring is Hurts.
Yep.
And yet he might have been playing the worst ball of anybody at the end of last year. And his future very much up in the air. Daniels was like everybody's personal favorite, but then, he's pretty slight. And then last year, the injuries came.
Yeah.
Herbert is maybe physically the best of all these guys, but there's something about Herbert that just makes you go, I don't know. There's something about him. It's like, he's so damn good. He probably should be number 1 on this list, but I don't know what he's going to be. There's something, maybe a miss there. And then there's Brock, who, has gone to a Super Bowl, has looked really good at times, has some amazing statistics. On key, if you look at some of the inner statistics, he's definitely good on third downs. He's best against, avoiding pressure and avoiding sacks despite pressure. He might be doing well in spite of his line and in spite of his weapons. And now, we'll see if he gets better weapons this year. But that, you cover 2 of these teams and the league well. So who's 1, 2, 3, 4 in this group? This is a tough one.
Yeah, no, this is tough. And if you were having these 4 quarterbacks, knowing what we know about them entering the draft process, who would every general manager in the NFL take first? It would be Justin Herbert, 6'5", 6'6", rocket arm, solid mobility. But I think you hit the nail on the head. He's had very empty seasons. And when the playoffs come around, he's been awful. He's shrunk. He's never won a playoff game. Who has played the best overall of these 4 quarterbacks? I think it's Brock Purdy, especially with the longest sample size, also getting it done in the playoffs. Who's been the most clutch? It's been Jalen Hurts. Jaden Daniels for me is the obvious last one because he's had 1 good year. So I'd say whole body of work, what they've accomplished regular season and playoffs, I would go Purdy 1. I'd go Hurts 2, Herbert 3, Daniels 4. Now, Hurts over Herbert's going to be very controversial, but he was top 10 in PFF passing grade, top 10 in PFF overall grade. He had more than 30 touchdowns and 6 interceptions last year when his offensive coordinator stunk. Anytime he's had a good OC, he's actually played really well. And it's so funny. Like, people are like, he can't throw the ball. A.J. Brown, of course he wanted to get out of there. A.J. Brown, in 4 years with the Eagles, went over 1,000 yards every year, was a 3-time All-Pro, was a top 3 to 5 wide receiver 2 of those years, and a top 10 guy the other 2. Who was throwing him the ball? It was Jalen Hurts, right? Who has outplayed Patrick Mahomes in 2 Super Bowls? Jalen Hurts. And that's with production, and then obviously went back and got his revenge in 2024 in Super Bowl 59. So, yeah, I'd go Purdy, Hurts, Herbert, and then Daniels is the obvious last one. Herbert has the best physical tools. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. This is a really tough one. I thought there's all different ways to look at this. There's if you want to go with stats, if you want to go with stature, do you want to go with potential? Do you want to go with, accomplishments? If it's based on accomplishments, I got to go Hurts, number 1. Right? If it's accomplishments.
Yeah.
Because he's accomplished the most. But that's not how I would make this decision. I would make this decision based on feel. And feel kind of supersedes everything else for me, especially at quarterback. It's like, how good is his feel? I can always, I think if you took Purdy with what Hurts had, I think Purdy could do what Hurts did. So I like Purdy more than Hurts.
The timing, touch accuracy, and anticipation from Purdy is like maybe the best in the NFL, honestly.
And just tremendous nerve, too. It takes a lot of nerve. I was in Philly for that game last year, and I was standing outside the stadium in the sunshine at 2:00 in the afternoon, hours before the game. The wind was howling. It was 30 degrees. I mean, there was so much adversity. I was like, God. And then the game starts.
He threw 2 picks in the game and still had a game-winning drive.
Yeah, I mean, Brock Purdy's, he's got it between the ears. He's got tremendous heart. I just think that he hasn't had the best surrounding cast. I would go Purdy 1. I would go Daniels 2, just because if he's healthy, I love his accuracy. I love his feel. There's something really special about him. But that's a projection.
He's too small for me.
Yeah, it's a projection. And I don't know, like if he's healthy, that's a big if. And you can even kind of see in this picture, he's got a very lean torso.
He's tiny.
Yeah, he's a thin guy. He's like, he's more like the RG3 build. And RG3 didn't last a long time. But I do love Daniels, and I think there's something really special there. I got to put Hurts. I can't put Hurts at the end. I know Herbert is a lot of people would take Herbert 1 on this and they wouldn't even think twice. Like Herbert, he's big, he's strong, he's central casting and the whole deal. But there's just something that just screams the feel's not there. He's just not going to make the play. I don't think he's trustworthy.
Yeah.
He just is. It's like an awesome car, but I don't know if I trust it, kind of a thing. I probably would go Purdy, Daniels, Hurts, Herbert. And because if it's like my life on the line, it's like I'm a little concerned about Hurts's lack of desire to throw the ball in the middle of the field, down the field. There's some things with Hurts that I think are kind of broken.
How much of that is play design and play calling, though?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're going to find out this year. We're going to find out.
You could tell me, is it Hurts or is it Kevin Patullo?
It's Patullo, but we're going to find out this year.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people walking out of that stadium cursing Kevin Patullo.
Yes.
I'll just say that.
He was
hated. And I saw Hurts play some great football, winning the Super Bowl. So I can't put him last. I think I'd go Purdy. I'd probably go Daniels 2. I got to go Hurts 3 just based on his character and his leadership. And I'll take the central casting guy with the big arm and the big stature, and he can make throws that none of these guys can make. I'm putting him 4th.
Let me add this too. I saw a commenter say, if Purdy had what Hurts had, he would have won 2 Super Bowls, not 1. That 2023 Niners team is one of the most talented teams to never win a Super Bowl in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, both All-Pros. George Kittle, All-Pro. Trent Williams, All-Pro. Christian McCaffrey, multi-time All-Pro, Offensive Player of the Year. The defense, I know Jerry Greenlaw went out, but you had Greenlaw and Fred in the middle. You had Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Javon Hargrave up front. You had Diamador Lenore at corner. I mean, that team, you had Kyle Shanahan as head coach. Like, the Niners losing Super Bowl 58 is one of the biggest what-ifs, in my opinion, because of the historic component that it would have involved. And components, right? The Niners winning their 6th title. Kyle Shanahan winning a title. Brock Purdy winning a title. All those iconic Niner players winning a championship. Breaking the Super Bowl curse that's been in place since 1994. Beating Kansas City. Getting their revenge. The Eagles did what the Niners couldn't. They beat the Chiefs a second time, and they executed flawlessly on both sides. The Niners, on the other hand, in Super Bowl 58, shot themselves in the foot time and time again, and they choked that game away.
Yeah, no question. Though Purdy himself can say, hey, man, I walked off the field a winner twice. If we get a defensive stop, I'm a champion. But I hear what you're saying.
If Spencer Burford blocked Chris Jones, Brandon Aiyuk also might not have gone crazy because he could have caught that touchdown pass.
Yeah.
So many what-ifs, as I mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Brock Purdy what he did in the second half of the Lions game with his legs, with his arm.
Green Bay.
Yeah.
He was so clutch against both those teams.
Yeah. There's something about Brock Purdy that is really, really special. And I know people are like, "Oh, Krug, come on, you're making me sick." I get it, but that's just the way I feel.
Mr. Irrelevant has proven literally everybody wrong.
Yeah, he's been really, really good. All right, let's do our prize picks lineup. Are you watching any World Cup?
Oh, I've been fully tapped in.
Oh, sweet. Okay, so we're going to do our little prize picks lineup right here, and we will tell you, of course, first of all, that the Krug Show is always brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 sports picks app. The reason I like it, it's simple. You're just picking more or less on player stats or game outcomes. You build your lineup, you're in. No complicated stuff. Just what you think is going to happen in the game. Use code HMA and play $5. You'll get $50 in lineups instantly. The link is in the description. And this is what we'll do. We'll move, first of all, move this out of the way. And we'll move us to the corner here. And we'll we'll call up our prize picks lineup and share the screen with that. Let's see. There we go. We'll see if Chase has some good World Cup knowledge. And then, of course, we've got we got to have the right banner there. Hold on. These things are never easy. All right, here we go. There it is. Boom. All right. All right. So let's go to the World Cup picks. And is there anything there that super intrigues you as far as the World
Spain,
Cup
Belgium
options?
Today.
Yeah, you've got Spain and Belgium.
Yeah.
And I've already wagered on Spain. I've got some money down on Spain.
You took Spain to win?
I took Spain to win, but I parlayed it with some baseball games that I liked. I took the Red Sox and Giants today with Spain, a little 3-teamer. I've actually had some luck doing some baseball. I even did some NBA finals and with baseball, but I like the kind of the crossover parlay. But any of these guys jump out to you? I mean, these are, you got the Spanish attacker, you got the Spanish midfielder, you got a Spanish defender, then you've got Belgium's guys there on the second row. You also have Norway, England coming up on Saturday. And there's Harry Kane down here with 1.5 shots. What, any of these guys jump out to you? I will steer clear of this because I will not try to pretend that I'm, I know Lionel Messi. That was an amazing game, by the way. Argentina down 2-0, should have been 3-0 to Egypt, and came all the way back. I mean, the momentum.
Last Friday, Argentina, Cape Verde was an all-timer.
I know, seriously.
I like Harry Kane on the more than shots.
Let's see, where is that? There it is.
He's right there.
1.5 shots. You like 2?
Yep.
Okay, so we got that. We'll go with that one.
And
I
then,
like that.
Let's go Jeremy Doku for Belgium. More than a half shot.
Is he gonna play? That was just the guy that didn't play last time. All right, I think they kept showing him.
If it's a demon play, I think he's playing.
Yeah, he's playing. When you say a demon play, they only give you one option.
That like red little demon that's next to him.
I got you.
Yeah. The green is Goblin.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I didn't even know what I was looking at there. All right, is there a third one that we can throw in there that you really like as well?
I feel like you got to make it fun with Messi. More than 1.5 shots.
There he is, right there.
Yeah.
How old is this guy?
38.
Dude,
unbelievable.
The lung capacity of these players is really impressive.
His longevity is very like LeBron-esque, I would say.
But I mean, these guys can just run all day. And if you're losing and you and the other team's trying to stall it out, you just got to sprint constantly. All right, so we'll submit our lineup. We're going to bet $5 on this, and we'll take a look at what the lineup looks like. All right, we got a 3-pick power play, 5 to win, $18.75. Harry Kane on a game that is England-Norway on Saturday. It's over a day away. 1.5 shots for Kane. He's got to have more. He's got to have at least 2 shots. Jeremy Doku, the attacker for Belgium, in a game that's going to start in about 3.5 hours. Or no, I should say in about 35 minutes, I should say. It's coming up at noon Eastern, or noon Pacific, I should say. He needs 2 shots, or 1 shot. He's got a half shot right now. And Lionel Messi needs 2 shots. He's got to have more than 1.5. If those things all happen, our $5 3-pick power play for $5 turns into $18.75. Thank you to PrizePicks for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And we'll put us back up there. There we go. And move that out of there. so everybody can see everybody. Boom. All right, there we go. Give me your quick thought on Ayuk. I mean, I hate even bringing up Ayuk. It's funny when I do. I'm sure you get the same kind of stuff. Why are you guys talking about Ayuk? I get it. But guess what? Chase covers the Niners. I cover the Niners. We're Niner content creators, and Ayuk is very much in a slow off season. He's given us a lot of stories and a lot of So thank you to Brandon, but also it's not like this guy's some scrub. This is a star player who's making lots of money. I think if we didn't cover it, I think it would be negligence on our part. I know, though, believe me, Chase knows, I know, we all know that you guys are really, really tired of the Ayuk thing. I am too. We all are. But I don't know. Why don't we I'll ask you that one first. I mean, you have a channel. It's very successful. You don't want to give your viewers and listeners an ear bleed, or, you know what I mean? You don't want to drive them away, but at the same time, they're kind of tired of it, but there's not tons of pertinent stuff out there. And some of his stuff has been incredibly juicy. How have you covered Ayuk in the last, let's say, 6 weeks?
What I always tell my audience, and my goal in what I do, the space that I present my content in, and the channel that I run, is I always want to be informative, insightful, entertaining, thought-provoking. I want to get the audience involved. Well, with the Brandon Aiyuk situation right now, during the slowest stretch of the NFL offseason, it is one of the biggest stories in the NFL. You cannot deny that. It's being talked about on ESPN. It's being talked about on First Take. Mike Florio's of the world are talking about this subject. And with you and I being on the quote-unquote Niner beat, you're more of a beat reporter, beat host than I am. I'm more of a radio talk show host from afar, right? I'm not in the locker room like you are. We have to inform our audience on what's going on. You've got a massive Niners channel that reaches millions of people every month. I have a massive Niners channel that reaches millions of people every month. Both of our channels reach Niner fans who watch the show worldwide. And if our competitors are talking about it as well, we also have to talk about it, because we're not doing our due diligence if we're not talking about this. So I know that some people get fatigued by it. And you and I, Larry, we've gotten fatigued by it. And some people's natural answer to that or reaction might be, well, if you're annoyed by it and you're over talking about it, why do you continue to discuss it? Because it's a huge story. This is a player who was drafted in the first round by the Niners in 2020. He got better and better and better every year that he was with San Francisco. He had the talent, the production, and was a scheme fit in an offense that has been one of the best in the league. He had the makings of becoming the next great Niners wide receiver. Maybe the most talented homegrown Niners wide receiver since Terrell Owens. If you really think about it, he became a second-team All-Pro in 2023. From a route running, footwork, yards after the catch, contested catch, big moments in big spots, taking the top off of the defense, getting vertical, having a great kinship with the quarterback who the Niners just paid. Brandon Aiyuk developed into a terrific player, and might I add, was an all-pro at a wide receiver position that in the NFL today has become increasingly important. That's why guys are making 30, 40 plus $million. But that goes to show you the depth of talent at wide receiver in the NFL. And it was Brandon Aiyuk as one of a handful of guys who was an all-pro in 2023. So this isn't some slouch. We're not talking about Jalen Hurd here or Dante Pettis. We're talking about a player who was on a trajectory of becoming the next great Niners homegrown wide receiver. And what we've seen since the lead up to the contract extension has been insane to watch develop, right? This has been career self-sabotage. This has been career suicide to the levels of Antonio Brown when he forced his way out of Pittsburgh, went to Las Vegas, burnt his feet doing cryotherapy, was let go by the Raiders after they gave up a ton to get him, went to New England, badmouth Robert Kraft after Tom Brady wanted to bring him in, got released by New England, went to Tampa Bay, won a Super Bowl. The last time that we saw Antonio Brown on the field, he was walking off at MetLife shirtless. And now there was a warrant out for Antonio Brown's arrest. He was running his Twitter account, which was funny for a little while. Now he's not even running it, and who knows what he's doing. Brandon Aiyuk right now went from being this great player to now we don't know if he's ever going to play again. His value was already extremely low, Larry, because he was coming off a career-threatening, very severe injury and has not played since 2024. And might I add, when he was playing that year, he was out of shape, awful, dropping passes, and was not good. And now with these social media antics and him being a borderline creep, a shitbird, saying all these weird things, sabotaging relationships, severing ties with one of his best friends in Jayden Daniels, and maybe the only team that actually wants him, this is sad to watch. It's unfortunate to witness because you can clearly see something's not right with Brandon Aiyuk. And this is a player who has a lot of ability, who I think right now is probably healthy. George Kittle even said that. But with his actions, he's being so dumb and doesn't have any people around him to check him and hold him accountable that he might not ever play in the NFL again. That's real. He's complaining about the Niners holding him hostage. He hasn't even applied for reinstatement with the NFL yet. You have guys like TJ Houshmandzadeh, who's a really good guy, is all ball, doesn't want him anymore. Brandon Aiyuk fired his agent. Like the path that he's going down is really destructive. I want the best for him because I want to see him be successful, but he's the one who continues to shoot himself in the foot. So how can I feel bad for him? I can't.
Well, and there are people that are like, hey, you guys are making light of this. This guy's having a mental health crisis, and you got, and it's like, well, I mean, I don't know what's going on with the guy. I don't know if he's having a mental health crisis. I mean, I can't. To me, it doesn't look good. These aren't moves I would make. I think he's getting bad advice, but if he's fired his agent, maybe he's not getting any advice. I don't know, but also he's a big boy. I mean, it's like, yeah. I'm not going to sit there and treat this guy like he's a child or something because he might be off the reservation when it comes to, his mental state. I don't know. I mean, it's like, we're not really doing anything against him. We're just talking about the story. It's a weird story though. And it does seem like he's crapping on Jayden Daniels. He's ruining his relationship with the Commanders. He's already ruined his relationship with the Niners. Then there's times where he takes down stuff. Like, did somebody advise him to do that? And some of these statements sound like they're coming from an agent. And
if you take down posts, usually those posts originally come out because of emotion, right? And we can make bad decisions when we're emotional. When the thoughts kind of fester and settle in and we delete something, it's because we know something wasn't right about that. And look, yes, he might be going through a mental health stretch where he's really struggling, but we also have to hold him accountable. You said it. He's a big boy, right? I mean, we're talking about a guy who's in his late 20s. If somebody who you are close with, who you love, is an alcoholic, addicted to gambling, addicted to drugs, are you just going to pamper them or are you going to hold them accountable? There has to be some self-reflection, looking in the mirror, going out and seeking help. And there has to be a level of holding yourself accountable. You have to be disciplined to a certain degree. And I was born in 92. I'm a millennial. I think I'm pretty old school for my age, considering like I've kind of had like a difficult life. And that's caused me to mature. And I've had to get through very difficult times myself. And every difficult time that I've gone through, I've gotten through it. But I've gotten through it because I've taken accountability. I've tried to improve myself. I've reached out to people. I've gone to therapy. Brandon Aiyuk is not doing any of those things. He continues to ruin what is a wonderful opportunity, and he's doing in a way that doesn't really make a lot of sense. He is to blame for his actions. We can feel bad and we can feel sorry for him and we can hope that he gets help. I said all of that. This is sad to witness, but at the same time, you got to take care of yourself. And Brandon Aiyuk right now is not taking care of himself. That's just the bottom line.
There's no reflection. There's no contrition. There's no any of that. It's just full steam ahead with just spouting. All right, last thought before we get out of here. This is kind of interesting. NFL average roster age for the upcoming season. The Dolphins, according to this, are the youngest team in pro football with an average age of 25.1 years of age. Chiefs are second, 25.4. It's interesting. The Commanders would be the oldest team. It looks like
second straight year they'll be the oldest team
at 26.7. But isn't it interesting that the youngest, the margin between the oldest teams, let's say the Commanders and Niners, 26.7, 26.6 for the 49ers, and the youngest teams, Kansas City and Miami, 25.1, 25.4. That is a very small disparity in average age. Is there a huge difference between your average age is 25.1 as opposed to 26.7? That doesn't, you know what I mean? Doesn't that sound pretty much like everybody's the same age? Are the Niners too old? And I before you answer that, let me show you this. This is an exercise that we used to do when I was with the Cardinals. And we did this between minicamp and training camp. And what we would do is we would just take the 90-man roster, and I'm going to show it to you because I did it the other day with the Niners. We took the 90-man roster and we just gave everybody a grade. They're either getting better or they're getting worse or they're staying the same. Those are the three options that you can have. Getting worse, getting better, staying the same. And here is what, let me hit the right button. Okay. This is what I have for the 49ers. Let me see if I can do this right. There we go. Okay, so this is the 49ers on offense. I don't know if you can see this, but basically there's 27 guys on the arrow pointing up.
I love the old school pen to paper, by the way.
I know, seriously.
It's great.
Yeah.
I was journaling today and I was like, the art of writing is awesome.
Seriously. And I have somewhat neat writing compared to some people, but 27 guys with the arrow pointing up on offense, 12 guys with the arrow pointing, neutral. They're not getting better, not getting worse. Who's on that list? Like Patrick Taylor, Luke Farrell, Braden Willis, guys that are either non-factors or guys that are factors like DeMarcus Robinson, Christian Kirk, but they're at that stage where they're no longer getting better, but they're also not old, so they're not necessarily getting worse. Then getting worse over here, I've got 6 guys: Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, Mike Evans, Trent Williams, and Jake Brendel. There's only 6, but all 6 of them are starters.
They're all starters.
They're all starters, okay?
Yeah.
So that's the offense, okay? So if I stop sharing that and then I show you the defense, here is the defensive breakdown. Let me see if I have this. There it is. Right there. Okay. Oh, that's not it. That's a sponsor. Hold on. Let me try that again.
Everybody knows your email address now.
Everybody knows where I'm at email-wise. I've just
fan mail coming up.
I just put it all out there. You guys can attack. All right. Let me see here. I think this is it. Here we go. Hey. All right. So this is the defense, okay? And the 49ers have 28 guys with the arrow pointing up on defense. Mikael Williams, Alfred Collins, all these guys, okay? Then there's 11 guys that are in that kind of in-between stage. Keon White, Sam Aquinu, Luke Gifford, Jack Jones, Nate Hobbs, Ashton Davis, Saron Neal, among guys that are actually probably on the roster. And then on defense, I have only 4 guys who are the arrow down: Bosa, Fred, Greenlaw, and Eli Apple. So basically, you've got 10. So the breakdown is down here on the bottom. 90 total players. 57 have the arrow pointing up. That's 63% of the 49ers roster. The arrow's pointing up. That's one of the highest percentages I've seen. That's a high. When we did it with the Cardinals, it would be like if you got between 50 to 55% of your roster getting better, that was a good thing. 25%, 23 of 90 are staying about the same or have no real factor. And 11%, 10 total guys are getting worse. But of those 10 guys, 9 of them are starters. So I want to just name those guys: Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, on defense. And then on offense, as you would expect, it's CMC, it's Kyle Juszczyk, it's George Kittle, it's Mike Evans, it's Trent Williams, it's Jake Brendel. So you got basically 10 guys there that are, or nine, let's say 9 guys that are some of your best players. They're all starters. How many of those 9 guys, CMC, Juice, Kittle, Evans, Trent, Brendel, Bosa, Warner, Greenlaw, are going to play at their previous level as opposed to fall off and play at a much lower level? I think Kittle may not play at a very high level. I would not be surprised if Bosa, regresses because of his injuries. I could see CMC regressing significantly coming off of all the touches he had. But to me, that is the Niners, roster. I think it's an interesting exercise. Why? Because it kind of shows you that the Niner roster, if you just go with the rank and file, they're getting better. So it's going to raise kind of the level of play. But then those 10 starters that are all like in that twilight, if those guys stay at the same level as the roster gets better, then the Niners might be a Super Bowl contender. But if those 10 guys or some collection within that 10-guy group, the bottom falls out, even with the growth of the rest of the roster, having 10 starters regressing probably takes them out of it.
Yeah.
Give me your thought just quickly on the 49ers, their age, their roster. I kind of laid out a lot there, but you see what I'm working at.
Yeah, no, good exercise. And that first graphic that you showed with the Niners being one of the oldest teams, it also split it up offense, defense. Offense, they're 32nd. Defense, though, they're 11th. And I think that's good, right? They have a young defensive core. They've addressed that side of the ball pretty heavily in the NFL draft over the last couple of years. And so you see their average age is under 26 years old on defense and then almost 27 and a half on offense. They're older on offense because of what you mentioned. The players who are kind of declining are all older players in their early, approaching mid, and then for Trent Williams, late 30s, which isn't ideal. I think the success of the Niners this year does come down to health, but when you are an older team, what often happens? When you're older, you usually get more injured. And so if the Niners can stay with their older players, who a lot of them are stars, which makes me a little bit concerned about the future because a lot of their star power, older players, I think they can have an excellent season. But you're relying on a lot. 38-year-old Trent Williams has to stay healthy. George Kittle coming off a torn Achilles. Christian McCaffrey being healthy at 30 with the workload that he has. Kyle Juszczyk still staying healthy as the chess piece on that offense. Mike Evans is a huge linchpin for the Niners' success this year. He's been injured the last 2 years. He's going to be 33 years old. So those are massive, massive concerns. This also points to, especially on offense, the importance of the Niners in the next couple of drafts, which is probably why they've gone so defensive heavy the last couple, hitting in the draft on offensive skill players, and then players like Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins staying healthy. And if those guys can stay healthy, it'll do wonders for this team this year, but also in the future.
Yep. Yeah, no question about it. Awesome stuff, man. Great to see you again. Tell people what you got cooking either, the rest of today or this weekend. I know, Chat Sports is always putting out lots and lots of quality content. What are you working on? Anything that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I've been on a little staycation the last couple of days because I just got a dog and adopted a Doberman on Sunday. So I've been easing her into a new routine and my place and stuff. She's doing really well, but having to train her a lot. So I've been really focused on that. But we're always pushing out content on the Niners Report. And then keep in mind, we're live, Friday, July 10th right now. Training camp starts in 15 days, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So it's going to be here before we know it. Once training camp comes around, man, live shows, bunch of content, YouTube shorts. We're going to be doing it all. And still had, I think, a record June on the 49ers Report last month. So really appreciate everybody continuing to support the content. It's a very slow month, but we ended up year over year being better than we were last year and then having a record June still. And I think we can have a record football season this year.
Well, you guys produce great stuff. Everybody check out Chat Sports and what Chase has got going, not just on the Niners, on the Eagles as well. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to PrizePicks. Thank you to Novato Chevrolet. You see the scroll at the bottom of the screen. Voted top car dealership by Carfax. I'll be driving a different Chevrolet every month of the football season this year,
Nice.
Courtesy of Novato Chevrolet. Right now I'm driving a Trailblazer, a green Trailblazer. Bay Area EV headquarters. Check them out. When I buy a Chevrolet, I only buy it from Novato Chevrolet. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to all of you. Now, if I can just remember, because I haven't streamed in a while, where the exit button is. There it is. Anyway, Chase, good to see you, man. We'll do it again soon.
Yep.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.